Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Oriental Aromatics Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Anuj Sonpal from Valorem Advisors. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Anuj Sonpal from Valorem Advisors. We represent the investor relations of Oriental Aromatics Limited. On behalf of the company, I would like to thank you all for participating in the company's earnings conference call for the fourth quarter and financial year ended 2021. Before we begin, I would like to mention a short cautionary statement. Some of the statements made in today's earnings conference call may be forward-looking in nature. Such forward-looking statements are subject to risks and uncertainties which could cause actual results to differ from those anticipated. Such statements are based on management's beliefs as well as assumptions made by and information currently available to management. Audiences are cautioned not to place any undue reliance on these forward-looking statements in making any investment decisions. The purpose of today's earnings conference call is purely to educate and bring awareness about the company's fundamental business and financial quarter under review. Now, let me introduce you to the management participating with us in the earnings call. We have with us Mr. Dharmil Bodani, Chairman and Managing Director, Nyamal Bodani, Executive Director, Parag Satoskar, Chief Executive Officer, Khandelwal, Chief Financial Officer, and Ms. Kiranpreet Gill, Company Secretary. Without any further delay, I request Mr. Dharmil Bodani to give his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anuj. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Quarter 4 and FY21 earnings conference call of Oriental Aromatics Limited. I hope all of you are keeping safe and healthy. To get straight to talking about the performance during the quarter, the company witnessed a healthy demand across most products, except for terpene chemicals due to the off-season, where we saw pressure in both raw material prices and other costs, including transportation costs, as well as lower price realizations due to off-season, and therefore pressure on the margins. We are able to offset this by driving our volume growth, which resulted in increase in revenues on a year-to-year and a quarter-to-quarter basis. On the ongoing capex plans, I'm pleased to inform you the capital investment program in Baroda, Bareilly, and Mahad are on track, and in fact in Baroda ahead of the curve. However, they are facing moderate delays in Mahad due to the COVID-19 crisis, and the Bareilly plants are normal and are functioning as per what we had anticipated. Now I request Mr. Girish Khandelwal, our CFO, to give you the finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharmil. Good afternoon, all. Here I'll start with on a consolidated basis in Q4 FY21, the operating revenue for the quarter was rupees 221 crore, which was an increase of approximately 31% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA reported was 33 crore, which was down by about 7% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA margin stood at 15.04% as against 20.98% a year ago. Net profit after tax reported was rupees 22 crore, which was declined by about 6% year-on-year, while PAT margins were reported at 10.12%. Now talking about the performance for FY21. On a consolidated basis, the operating revenue was rupees 709 crore, which decreased by approximately 7% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA was rupees 155 crore, which was an increase of about 22% year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA margin stood at 21.88% as against 16.74% in the financial year 2020. Net profit after tax reported was rupees 102 crore, which was an increase of about 18% on a year-on-year basis, while profit after tax margins were 14.38%, which were up by 304 basis points year-on-year. For FY21, the cash profit stood at 120 crore, which was an increase of about 13% on year-on-year basis. Here, we are very happy to say that in spite of most difficult year due to the pandemic, we are able to achieve highest ever EBITDA of rupees 155 crore and PAT margin of 14.38%. We consider this as fantastic year in our history. Thank you all. With this, we can now open the floor to the questions and answer session. Over to you, Anuj.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Viraj Mehta from Equirus PMS. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Dharmil and team. Great performance for the whole year. Just wanted to understand on the capital expenditure. We had talked a very high number in terms of capex, but what we see in the balance sheet is less than 40 crores. So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, Parag, will you want to take this with Girish?
Sure. Hi. Good afternoon. So primarily, when it comes to capex, we have a big number which is being planned, but it's something which is going to come in tranches. So right now, the kind of plants or the kind of capex which is going on in the plant is primarily, setting up the infrastructure and kind of buying the long wait items. And that's the reason why we see that the employment of capital is a little slow, especially in the expansion projects at Baroda. But as we go on in the next 2 quarters, this particular employment of capital will substantially increase. And once we have all the clearances for starting work in Mahad, that's when the real employment of capital will start.
And when do you expect that to happen in Mahad?
So I think the next 2 quarters will be primarily investment. The current and the next quarter would be investment primarily in Baroda expansion and process reengineering expansion in Bareilly. I think we start Mahad expansion from beginning of Q3 this year.
Right. And just one
capital employment.
Right. And just one question on raw material and finished product prices. If I look at the alpha-pinene prices, that the RM prices have gone up since November onwards, and I'm assuming that would have hurt us this quarter. But finished product prices are also now picking up since February, March onwards, and camphor prices have also now shown strength in last couple of months. So whatever large reduction in gross margin we saw this quarter to this extent, is it kind of fair to assume that this like last 15-16 quarter low gross margin is kind of one-off?
I'll take that, Parag. I think the information that you have gathered is accurate in terms of where the raw materials are and where the camphor prices are. But you have to understand Oriental Aromatics is driven not by one vertical but by 4 verticals. We feel that the other 3 verticals are continuing to see sold out capacities and a fairly decent value realization. And yes, camphor is seeing in this quarter, hopefully affirming and as the season gets into play. So, we don't run Oriental Aromatics quarter to quarter, and there can be ups and downs in terms of, the margins. But I think the results that you see of year to year are above our guidance, and we will stay with the guidance of 15 to 17% going forward.
Thank you so much, and this is very helpful, Dharmil. Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Viraj.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nirav Jaimudia from Annual Research. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I have two questions. One is with reference to our hydrogenation facility at Baroda, and the one which is now coming up as a part of the new capex. So is there any difference in terms of handling of chemicals, like with respect to bulk versus specialty? Like currently, probably we may be handling more of bulk, and in the new facility, more of specialty could be handled. If you can explain this, and then I move to the second question.
Hydrogenation in Baroda, along with some other product plants, single chemical plants that we are building, as mentioned in the past, these are specialty materials.
Okay.
The hydrogenation facility that we are building, which Parag mentioned, in the next quarter you will see more capex coming into play because we get deeper and deeper into the project. There is a combination of bulk to medium to small materials that we will handle there. We will, in that plant, have a good balance of primarily specialty chemicals, followed by mid-volume, mid-value, and there would be a handful, what we call within Oriental Aromatics, container fillers, where they will be volume materials, low-value materials, primarily to give a basket of materials to the industry.
Okay. But sir, is there some sort of understanding from the customers also to develop products according to their requirements, or probably we are going to the customers in terms of developing the product by our own and telling them that, see, these are the products we are going to offer you.
Right. So Nirav, as explained to you, and if you followed the past calls, Oriental Aromatics is primarily also a fragrance and flavor manufacturer.
Correct.
So fortunately, we do not need the customers that we approach to tell us what we need to take into R&D. We already have that in-house research of the product mix that we want to take into R&D. So we will drive our own strategy on chemicals, of course, looking at the customer requirements and our internal requirements in the selection of molecules.
Correct.
So it is going to be a internally driven strategy in line with what we believe the industry wants.
Okay. So my second question is with respect to the cost and the technology arbitrage, what we expect with respect to the new capex. Because what I believe is that probably these are the new facilities. You already mentioned that most of would be driven towards specialty more. So what sort of cost and technology arbitrage we expect with respect to the new capex? The question is basically with respect to so why I'm asking this question is basically to understand more about our incremental margins from the new capacity and the ROCs what we expect.
Right. So Nirav, I won't go into that much of micro. I'll stay with the guidance of 15 to 17% across the four verticals. I don't feel comfortable at this point to talk beyond that, but to stay with the guidance.
Correct. So, but if you can explain slightly qualitatively that what sort of cost and technology arbitrage we have with respect to the old versus new capacity, that would be also helpful, sir.
I don't understand what you mean by arbitrage.
No, sir. In terms of, so I'll try to go more into detail. So like, let's say currently, so I was just going through your P&L account. So in 2018, probably our fixed cost was 50 crores, which is now at 67, 68 crores in FY20, the reported balance sheet. But if we see our turnover, it has moved up from 500 crores to 750 crores in this period. So probably the turnover has gone up by 50%, but the cost has just gone up by 25 to 30%. So far as the fixed cost is concerned. So I'm just trying to understand that when we are again putting up same sort of capacities where our incremental turnover is going up by probably 700, 800 crores, what sort of cost dynamics we expect from this new facility?
Cost dynamics in terms of what?
So what I'm trying to understand is that the fixed cost would not go in that proportion to what it is currently, because currently we have been able to control our fixed cost. Correct. It has not.
Okay, I kind of understand what you're asking.
Nirav, can I?
Yeah, Parag, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, Nirav, I think we will ensure that whatever expansions and whatever capex and whatever plants come in, will have the fixed costs, which are commensurate for us to ensure a sustainable EBITDA margins of between 15 to 17%. Let's put it that way. We will ensure that the pricing, we will ensure that the costs fall into such a range that we will continue to have a between 17 to 18%. And that is the internal template that we decide whenever a new product gets selected.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Jain from Prudence Wealth. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. And congratulations, team, for posting the highest quarterly top line in tough time.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. One was with regards to the margin. Parag, in the last conference, which was held in March, we had spoken, of course, Dharmil, you have always been upfront in saying that, we had benefits of raw material in the previous quarters and product prices also. And you had mentioned in the previous call also very clearly that raw material prices, we are through with the inventory part and finished product prices are coming down. And you have been always maintaining the margins we should talk about is 15 to 17%. But in the previous conference in March, on the longer term basis, I'm not talking about this quarter or next quarter, we had mentioned that on the longer term basis, now we were talking about margins in the range of 16 to 20%. So I understand, or my understanding was probably over a period of next 2-3 years, are we trying to up the guidance from 15-17 to 16-20?
Okay, I don't know where you're getting the 15 to 20% because I don't recall us saying that ever. We are staying with 15 to 17%. And yes, every company does want to, try and work on improving that number. And so will Oriental Aromatics.
Sure. And sir, what was the capacity utilization currently which we are working on? Because this time the turnover which we have posted, is this post our capex completing in November 20, which we had talked about at Baroda? Which is what has helped the top line?
November 20, what we had spoken about is going to come into play in the next 2 quarters.
Sorry, I didn't get this.
Okay, so the November 20, when we told you all that we are moving into our expansion plans in Baroda, those plants will get completed and we will see some movement from those plants in the second quarter of this year.
No, Dharmil, the November 20 is the expansion that we have completed.
Okay, go ahead, Parag. Go ahead, and maybe I have not understood the question.
Yeah, also for those plants, the expansion is complete, the validation is complete. We have got 2 full months of production from the plant in the month.
Okay, you're talking about the expansion of the current SCD.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have had 2 months of full production at the new validated capacity, and the products have reached the customer. So I think and that's the reason why, if you see in the last quarter, we have seen a good growth in terms of the volumes as well. So we are pretty confident about the expansion that was completed to really deliver the desired results.
Sure, and I'd just like to add to what Parag is saying. I mean, we keep talking about our specialty chemicals. We talk about Baroda, Mahad, Bareilly. But I would like to also say that the fragrance and flavor division has seen very good volume and value growth. And, it is contributing also is a very important piece in our entire 4 verticals, which is assisting this 15 to 17% EBITDA.
So just, Parag, just to get this right, there was this brownfield project at Baroda which got completed in November 20, and in the previous con call you had mentioned it will start contributing from Q1 of FY22. But I think what you said is it has already started contributing for last 2 months. So probably 1 month of March and current month of April. Is that right?
Correct. And also the month of February.
Correct.
Sure. Okay. And this brownfield total amount spent was how much, Parag?
It was in the region of between 9 to 10 crores.
9 to 10 crores.
Correct.
Fair enough. Just to get this capex things right, is Parag, I think previously you had mentioned about timelines of each of the capex coming through. So if you could just share details in terms of quantifying the amount of capex and the timeline, that could be really helpful, because you had mentioned that greenfield project as also quarter 3 21 another project to start. So if you could just share the going from today in next 2 years at each juncture, what kind of capex gets completed in terms of value of that capex?
Okay, so all the plants are currently under construction. So, what we have are estimates of what will be the cost, and, we'll have to kind of work with some assumptions. But, we have a single product specialty dedicated plant, which we feel should be commissioned by, say, Q2 end of this year. And that is a capex of around 20 crores. We have certain continuous process re-engineering and certain utility expansion projects which are happening in the Bareilly plant, which will help us enhance our capacities of terpene chemicals, which are currently running at 100% capacity. And those projects will get over by December 2020. And that is where we are envisaging an investment of between 15 to 18 crores. And then the third tranche would be the hydrogenation plant, which is where we've started the civil construction as we speak. And, that plant will be commissioned by end of Q4 2021-22, which is March 2022. And that would be an investment of anywhere between 120 to 145 crores. We are still working on the costs for certain key utilities, so I won't be able to give you a very narrow range, but that's the kind of range that we are looking for. And that will be a decent sized plant. And then eventually, we are looking for the Mahad project, which would have an investment of, Girish, correct me if I'm wrong, around 200 crores?
Right.
Which will be a combination of certain terpene chemicals as well as certain standalone plants for single products, and if required, and if we feel the opportunity, a multipurpose plant. So these are the kind of tentative timelines with the indicative estimated investments that are going to happen over the next 2 years.
Correct.
Sure. And the average asset to turn would be around 1.5, 1.8?
I think we normally say that it is 1.7x, and Girish, correct me if I'm wrong. But that is
yes, 1.7, right.
Yeah, so it falls within the range.
Thank you so much. This is helpful. And wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deepan Sankara from Trustline PMS. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, and congratulations for good set of numbers for full year.
Thank you.
Firstly, I want to understand, are we seeing any kind of decline in consumer demand in our end user segment for our fragrances division?
So the answer to that is no, because parts of the world where, the pandemic is coming under control is seeing demand going back to, not only normal, but in certain cases, a percentage increase. As far as India is concerned, we are seeing future orders, at least for the next quarter, on par, if not slightly improved than what it was last year. So as of now, we are not seeing in Indian subcontinent the second wave causing any issues to the consumer demand.
Okay. So also our these fine fragrances also seeing month on month improving from its lower level?
Yeah, it definitely is, especially in the Middle East and in the Asia Pacific region where we are very active. And we are seeing business improving in terms of not only both value and volume, but also in terms of new product development, which in the financial year 2021 was a bit slow. What we have seen in the last quarter and a little before that, maybe starting November, that there has been, new development happening, which is always a very good sign in our industry. That means there will be new products being launched, and I suspect the consumer demand to stay where it is and gradually improve, and eventually, at the end of this, as the vaccinations grow globally and in countries like ours, I feel the consumer demand not only will be back, but I think there should be healthy growth.
Okay, that was really helpful. And finally, what is the reason for the sharp increase in employee costs and other expenses? Is there any one-off included in that for the quarter?
Girish?
Yes. So the employee cost actually from effective from 1st January we have given the increments to the employees. And
so Girish, maybe I'll take that. So Deepak, to answer your question, we have had very, as you can see, a very good year. We have had no retrenchment in our employees, and in fact, we have rewarded our employees for the outstanding performance that they have done. In some cases, it's one-off, and in some cases, as Girish has mentioned, we have given healthy increments, and we have looked after our people. For us, that is the most important thing.
Right.
Okay.
In other expenses, other expenses majorly 2.5 crore increase due to the CSR contribution increment. So major amount is that, and rest all other expenses are in line with, all under cost under control.
Okay, thanks a lot and all that.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, operator? I think we lost the operator. Aisha, are you there? Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit from Bamboo Capita. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, team, and congratulations on a good set of numbers on annual. When we talk about Oriental, we largely focus on aroma chemicals and camphor and all. And this time you have spoken that flavors and fragrances, which saw a tough time during the early part of this year, has seen good increase in value and volume. So, Dharmil, if you can spend some time on how that part of the business is shaping up, and how do you see the growth in this segment over the next 2-3 years or even longer?
So the way I look at it is, last year has been a very big challenge. We have mentioned this in the past also, especially from the fine fragrance front, from, people staying home, not using deodorants, not going out, not using perfumes, etc. What has been very encouraging, and as I've explained to you, as the world is getting vaccinated, economies are opening up, people are going out. I see the Middle East, the European demand, the American demand coming in fairly strongly. I see even Asia Pacific, many countries, including Indonesia and Singapore, improving. And I think for us, the most important indicator of the fragrance and flavor business reviving is the opportunity to work on new products. And that since November has, increased exponentially. And I believe that all the submissions that Oriental Aromatics has made on new products across the globe are going to see wins, and I feel very confident that as the world opens, the consumer product business will continue to improve, and that in turn will have a effect on the growth of the flavor and fragrance division. I think it's stabilized. I think we are confident that the volumes that 2021 saw will be improved in 21-22. We are seeing demand not only for the existing products but also for new product development. So FNF will be a huge focus for Oriental Aromatics in 21-22 and over the next few years, along with the chemical strategy that we have in place, which is very complementary to the F&F business.
So is it possible that this business also can grow in line with our expectations of growth in the overall business? Let's say, if you have told us that, at 15% growth is possible. Is it possible that F&F also can grow at faster pace and match the company's overall revenue growth targets that we have?
The F&F space works very differently from the chemicals and the specialty chemical space, because in the chemicals and specialty chemical space, it's largely driven by massive investments and individual plants. Once those are operational and reach capacity, you can put a tangible number to it. In the fragrance and flavor business, it's a little different, because you may win products, but then those products have to succeed in the market so that you in turn get orders for the fragrance or flavor. Example, you decide to launch a shampoo and it does very well, and your sales increase, you will then in turn buy fragrance for that from us if we've won it. So the fragrance and flavor growth is always determined primarily by the companies we deal with and how their products do in the end marketplace. Having said that, we are seeing demand returning across the globe, and I think in India, once we ride this crisis and that, I think there will be more normalization, and we will see a healthy growth in that area. Whether it's going to be as much as the growth of the other two divisions and Camphor, I'm not too sure I can put a tangible number to that.
Thank you. We would request our current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. Also, we would request the participants to please limit their questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Rohit Ohri from Progressive Shares. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. I have 2 questions, probably 2 parts to that. The first one is related to the subsidiaries and or the international subsidiaries. What are the opportunities, threats, and weaknesses that you see in the international subsidiary? And by when do you think on the consolidated level will they be able to be maybe break even on the EBITDA level and or better if they are having consistent profitability?
So in terms of the subsidiaries, we have only one, which is in Indonesia, and that's primarily a marketing and sales office.
Okay.
So I don't know which other subsidiary you're referring to.
Okay, and how many workers would be having at Jakarta?
It's sales and marketing, so it's
okay.
It's
so the sales and marketing team.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that also, in the long term, I think we would move away from the subsidiary model, because we found that India has got the capacity to supply to the region, and there would be no need for us currently to look at investing in a flavor and fragrance plant anywhere else in the world. And as far as chemicals is concerned, we are going to stay India-centric.
Okay. So second thing is related to the new molecules and the new products that you are speaking about. Assuming and looking at the industry data, there are quite a lot of people who are filing for revolving credit facilities. So assuming that things come back to normal in F&F in the next probably 3 or 6 months, by then, in this scenario, how many molecules are there with us which we can immediately roll out?
So that's not how the flavor and fragrance business works, Rohit. It's not a question of new molecules rolling out. We've explained in our past calls, as far as Oriental Aromatics is concerned, is we are a specialty generic aroma chemical manufacturer. So these chemicals are already being used in the flavor and fragrance industry. And to give you an example, we launched, I think it was in December or January, 3 new sandal molecules. These 3 new sandal molecules were already being used in the industry. And, the launch was very well accepted. The qualities were very well accepted. And in fact, those 3 molecules will become part of the expansion plan that we would do in one of the multi-purpose, by freeing up capacity in the current multi-purpose plant because these single product plants and the hydrogenation plants are coming up. So the market already exists. It's not that a molecule is not used because the flavor and fragrance industry may have seen a decline. The molecules are continuously being used. It's a formulation-based business. It's a blending-based business. So as we roll out the molecules, have quality and price acceptance, we see no reason why we will not be able to achieve our targets.
Thank you. We will request the current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions. The next question is from the line of Anupam Agarwal from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Team Oriental, and congratulations on the great set of numbers.
Thank you.
So my question was basically on your operating cash flow for the year and working capital. We've seen a sharp decline in operating cash flow from 180 crores to around 17 crores, primarily led by a sharp increase in debtor days and receivable days. Can you just throw some highlight and some points as to why?
Hello, Yes. Actually, see, if you see in the Q4, our working capital has increased majorly because on the data side, the number of credit days has increased by 5 to 7 days at the quarter end, and inventory has increased because inventory, there are two factors. One is we have increased the inventory quantity also because the raw material prices were going up to keep the position of the low cost inventory, and another is the raw material prices has also increased, so that working capital requirement has gone up. So these two are the major reasons.
Okay, and what is the estimation that we intend to look at in terms of these inventory and debtor days going ahead?
Debtor days will improve by 5 to 7 days means already improved as on today as compared to the 31st March situation. And inventory level we are seeing in the same range as of now because the rates are at the higher side.
Understood.
And also we will be quick into season now in the next 2 quarters. So we have to stock up on inventory to make sure that we bought it in at the right price, and maybe take an advantage in the event that there is a seasonal demand which takes the price up of the finished goods.
Understood. So second question on your capex, the cash flow number gives a 35 crore outflow for the year of 21. From the total 300 crore that we've outlined, how much do we intend to do in FY 22 and 23?
Parag, you just gave the breakup now.
So that is the timeline that we intend to look for.
That's more or less the timeline.
Understood. Thank you so much, and all the best.
Thank you.
I think there are some different disturbance in the line. Shyamal and Parag got disconnected.
Anuj,
I believe.
Sorry, I missed your question.
I think we've lost Shyamal and Parag.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I'll do that.
Moderator, I'm done with my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Operator, are you there?
We would request the participants to please stay connected as the line for the speakers has gotten disconnected.
Anuj, should we disconnect and they'll call back?
No. Don't. They'll just connect the rest of the management. Aisha, can you take the next participant, and in the meantime, at the back, connect the rest of the management?
Sure. The next question is from the line of Bhavesh Chauhan from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Just wanted to know, sir, on your tie-up with International Fragrance and Flavors. I think several years back we had a tie-up with them, and then we have never heard about it. Are we in touch with them or looking for some sort of a contact or anything?
So the tie-up continues as of now. It's up for renewal, and we will see what happens.
Okay. So have they approached us for any sort of CRAMS or any other global MNC has approached us? I'm looking for something like, from China plus one strategy. Are we benefiting on those lines?
Yes, we definitely are.
Okay. So any meaningful thing, any meaningful project
I won't be able to get into the specifics of the products that we sell, but I can tell you that we work with all the multinationals on several different specialty and commodity chemicals, and we continue to grow our share within their buying basket. And it's not just one multinational; it's across the board.
Okay. And so secondly, what was our volume growth on a year-over-year basis, if you can quantify?
Across the 4 verticals?
Yeah, it will be helpful.
I don't have those numbers with me. Parag, Girish, do you all have those numbers?
Girish, you have, I don't have them, but we can share it with
because of
related it.
Actually year on year, if suppose we year to year we compare, actually overall there are little bit reduction because there was shutdown of 40 days due to the lockdown in April and May.
Yes, so I was looking for year over year growth for 4Q FY21.
Q4 to I have to see actually. Volume growth is there. It is around 10% or so, more than 10%. But I will give you separately the exact number.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipin Sheth from Crystal Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I have a simple question. You have admitted that there has been a little bit of a tightness or which will slip on the working capital bit because of the rise in inventories and receivables. At the end of the year, actually, short-term borrowings have gone up. I want to know that if you have, let's say, as we go forward into the next 2 years, I think you should be spending more than 250 odd crores on capex. And if you are generating something between 100 to 150 crores on cash profits, even assuming working capital doesn't go up substantially, I guess you'll have to resort to a little more borrowing. It's a little bit of a touch and go, but it also depends on how the business fluctuates and what kind of cash flows are generated.
Sure.
I don't think we are uncomfortable on the debt position. It's just that, after this year's higher working capital position, as an investor, I feel a little less confident about the capex getting executed without any additional debt coming on the books.
But the additional debt will come on the books now.
Yeah.
Of course it will.
So I guess we'll have to live with it, and I don't think it's a terrible thing. It's just that I wanted a clarity on this.
Yeah, no, the additional debt will come on the books. We are not debt averse. We are, we are open to borrowing, but borrowing for the right purposes and at the right time mainly.
Right. Absolutely. And we've spectacularly paid it back in the recent past. So I'm okay with a little bit of debt going up on a much higher productive base. I don't think that's too much to worry about. The second thing is that the reversal in margins in the last quarter was mostly expected, and actually you've been guiding for it. So I'm not concerned about what is being reported. But from a business perspective, is this reversal only as understood earlier, a cyclical or a one-off getting reversed, or is there any weakness in the business, in any part of the business mix which is leading to this, or do you see something changing structurally, or is it more or less what we had anticipated?
Okay, so to answer your question, look, fundamentally and structurally, all 4 verticals seem to be strong. In terms of the guidance that we've always given is 15 to 17%.
Exactly.
If you have been on our last call, we did say that the margins that you all have seen have, are not sustainable in the long term. And we're very straightforward and very honest with that.
Yes,
and I think our guidance of 15 to 17% holds. And I don't see any of the 4 verticals in the coming year, being something dramatic going wrong with it. I don't see that happening.
That's very reassuring. I had a lot of other questions, but almost all of them have got answered, courtesy the questions that others have asked. So thanks for the opportunity. One last thing by way of maintenance information. On your disclosed financials, I cannot see the tax breakup for current and deferred.
Okay. Girish?
This I will give separately because I have to open the balance sheet.
Right. So maybe you can follow it up with with Valorum.
Definitely, you can please share your email so I'll send.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhwani Desai from Turtle Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dharmil and team. Congratulations for very good performance.
Thank you.
Two questions. First, Dharmil wanted to understand that, in the aroma chemical space, so far, the overall market dynamic is that most of the product prices are driven by demand supply and it's a spot pricing based business. But are you witnessing any change in terms of willingness of customer to get into slightly longer term contracts or kind of any such proposals based on China plus one or the evolving geopolitical situation?
Parag?
So, Dhwani, to answer your question, I think with in the aroma ingredient space and also in the terpene chemical space, with most of our bigger customers, most of the times it's not spot. It is contracts which are for a duration of between 3 to 6 months, which are called as internally RFQs. So, we are looking at that. I think also to answer the second part of your question, of course, there's a tremendous amount of excitement and euphoria about Indian manufacturers, and customers are extremely keen on exploring sustainable long-term partners who can deliver value by providing materials of a standard uniform quality and at a good competitive price. So, I think we are exploring multiple areas. We work with customers on spot when it comes to a lot of our local customers, or probably say the camphor business on the religious side. But in the rest of the aroma ingredient space, I think with the bigger clients, we have these 3 to 6 months contracts. And when it comes to fragrances and flavors, I think it's more of a stable pricing strategy, which kind of is the one which is in play.
Okay. So just to follow up on that, Parag, so you said that some of the aroma chemicals do have 3 to 6 months kind of a contract. Do you see this timeline getting elongated or people asking for slightly longer term contract as they want supply security? Are you seeing such conversations happening?
So, as we go into the turbulent times, there is always this request from customers if, we want to go into a long-term contract. As long as we have the comfort of having a back-to-back contract with our raw material supplier, we don't mind, and in certain cases, we go for 12 months contract. But in most of the cases, we want to keep our options open, because I think the last 1 year has been a testament where, multiple things have happened. We've had freight costs going up. We've had ocean liner costs going up. So, we don't want to get stuck in a fixed price contract where we don't have a back-to-back arrangement with our raw materials. But in certain very specific cases, we do explore and we do go ahead and do those 12-month contracts where we have that buffer built into our pricing and the customer accepts.
Okay, got it. And second question is on the FNF blend side. So, my understanding is, and correct me if it is not accurate, but that, overall in Indian FNF blend space, our share of wallet on MNC customer is relatively lower, and we have marquee customers on our list, but the wallet share is lower. So, are we seeing traction in terms of increasing wallet share with the MNC customers in the FNF blend space? And is there any opportunity that we can tap on FNF blend space outside India, or is it going to remain a domestically focused business?
So our focus is on the latter part of it. I believe that the outside opportunities in the FNF space in the Middle East and the Asia Pacific region are huge for us. and we will continue to grow our market share in that. We are very confident. In terms of growing our market share with the MNCs, we continue to try. They come with their core listed suppliers, and it's always an uphill task. So there are no illusions in Oriental Aromatics business strategy that we will get approved and become a core listed supplier to the MNCs. But there is life outside the MNCs, and we focus a lot on that. And Middle East, Asia, Pacific, and India, including our neighbors Bangladesh and in fact even maybe China, where we will hopefully have opportunities to export our flavors and fragrances.
And Africa, if I may.
And Africa, sorry, I forget Africa.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot and all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal from Vallum India Discovery Fund. Go ahead.
So thank you very much for the opportunity and congratulations for a very good result. I have a simple question. I wanted to understand the inventory which we have stocked up on the books at the end of this quarter. For how long will it last, considering the current levels of almost 100% utilized production?
So this would be across different verticals. I'll speak on the fragrance and flavor. Since the fragrance and flavor price contracts are for a much longer period and more stable, we have inventories running on critical materials as much as 6 months, and on commodities 3 months. On the chemical sides, I'll let Parag answer.
So, to Kunal, to answer your question, I think Girish, as he rightly pointed out, that the block up in the inventory primarily is because we see a very, very sustainable trend of prices going up substantially across vertical raw material categories. And so, we believe in the principle that when the prices are going up, go long, and when they are going down, go short. So, it's a very classic example where when we see that the prices are going up, we have gone ahead and used our capabilities to really store the raw material. And I'm sure we are being told that things should start stabilizing by Q3, Q4 of this year. And when we see that happening, we'll probably start looking at the trends and we'll again start cutting down the inventory. But to answer your question, even on the raw material front for certain critical raw materials, we are now looking at a clear vision of between 3 to 4 months of actual stocks, which otherwise were between 30 to 60 days. So we are seeing a 1.5 to 2 months extra pile up of inventories just to keep our stocks and our prices in control for the finished goods.
So that is very helpful. And just to follow up on that one, so are you seeing any resistance from your customers on the chemical side of the business to accept prices which are much higher? Because I think the spike up in the raw material prices have been very, I think which is almost probably 60-70%. So are we facing a difficulties passing on the prices in the near term at least?
This would go again vertical to vertical. Flavors and fragrances stays as is. On the camphor side, we are able to pass on the price the price increases. And on the specialty chemicals, also we are able to do that. On the bulk aroma chemicals, it's a battle.
I think on a lighter side, the biggest resistance comes from our fragrance division for a price.
That's true.
Got it, sir. Got it. All the best for the coming quarters, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Drishtant Chakravarti from DC and DC Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Drishtant, your line
Hello.
is
Am I audible now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. So first of all, many congratulations for a great financial year, first of all.
Thank you.
So my question is a follow-up on the question that was raised in the cash from operations question. So something that I wanted to understand was, is this stocking up of inventory going to be happening every year, or like is this disparity that we see in the cash from operations, say from FY20 to F1 a one-off, or like is that going to continue? It's something I want to understand.
Girish, Parag, one of you.
Yes, Parag. already just explained it.
So Dushyant, I've just explained that, when we see, we use our financial capabilities to maneuver our raw material purchases in such a way that if we see a trend where the raw material prices are going up, we go long. And we have plants and we have storage facilities which can give us the flexibility of stocking up raw materials. And so that is the reason why, you see that the raw material inventory pile-up is a little more than expected, point number one. Point number two, I think on the fragrance flavor division, as is also on the terpene chemicals division, which are a little seasonal in nature. You tend to when you are getting into a season, you tend to keep a little bit of more raw material inventory. We fortunately do not have any FG inventory, because that gets sold off at the end of every month. So, yeah, it's to answer your question, it is a one-off case. We will correct when we see that the prices are going down and we need to go short, and we will free up the locked-up capital.
All right, got it. And my second question is more of a broader picture question. So as you rightly stated that there has been a big euphoria regarding specialty chemicals and domestic chemical production in India itself, going by the China Plus One strategy. So we've also seen many new players enter into the specialty chemicals division, and as you have stated in your previous calls that Oriental Aromatics isn't necessarily generating or say discovering new molecules or say getting patents on them. So my question was that do you see any competition threats coming in which may eventually say have an impact on margins eventually?
The product mix that Oriental Aromatics continues to do and continues to grow with its R&D division, we feel extremely confident about the number of products that we are going to launch in the pipeline. As far as competition is concerned, it's more the merrier, the fittest will survive. And do I see margins being affected if a company comes up in one or maybe two chemicals that we manufacture? The answer is no, because Oriental Aromatics offers a basket. We already have I don't have the exact number of my head, but it's how many materials now, Parag?
54.
So there you go. We have already a basket of 54 materials, and normally customers buy all these 54 or at least 80 or 90% from us as individual customer. So it's not a very big concern that a company manufacturing one or two materials will suddenly come and compete with us, because there is a basket pricing strategy in place which is advantageous to the customer.
All right, got it. That's pretty reassuring. Thank you so much and good luck for FY22.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit from Bamboo Capital. Please go ahead.
My questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashal Shah, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congrats on a good set of numbers. A couple of questions. One was, you mentioned that the chemicals you will stay India-centric, as well as flavors and fragrances you are planning to export as well. Is there any specific reason for that?
The aroma chemicals manufacturing will stay India-centric.
Okay.
A large amount whatever we manufacture currently and in the future is already being exported. And also on the flavors and fragrance, I think India is set to bounce back. It's a matter of time. And the Asia Pacific, Middle East, African markets, we're already seeing more in the Middle East and Asia Pacific. In the FNF sector, a good bounce back. And in terms of our chemicals, I think Europe and America are more or less in terms of demand normalized and growing.
Understood, sir. Thank you. And another question I had was the new molecules you mentioned that you would be launching are not patented or something,
No, we strictly focus on a generic aroma chemical manufacturing model in both bulk and specialty. So as a company, we don't infringe any patents of our customers. I would put it that way, because most of them are our customers.
Okay, understood. So it would just be a pricing game for you to get access.
Also, not only pricing, largely technology driven, because these are not easy materials to make.
Understood. So even though they're generics, the plan to beat the competition is
it requires capital investment, which is why our outlay of 300 crores over the next 2 to 3 years or 2 years, and it requires updated technology. It's not as simple as a bulk bulk drug or a bulk material where it's driven by price. Many of the materials that we are in now are not necessarily driven only by price. It's driven by investment, technology, and lots of other factors. And in the FNF space and in the specialty aroma chemical space, there is a odor element which is very important. So the quality of the product has to be the same as the inventors.
I shall also just add one more point in terms of complexities. In Oriental, we currently handle more than 28 different chemistries. So, that adds one more level of complexity to the kind of variety that we get on the table, on the generic stage.
Understood, sir. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aman Vij from Astute Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I had 2 questions. My first question is on the what was the number of products launched in FY21 and the target for FY22 and 23?
Parag, do you have a ballpark number? Because I don't have it.
So the number of products launched in FY 2020-2021 was, if I'm not mistaken, 6. And we have an extremely active R&D program and a piloting program. So it should be between, 4 to 6 new generic specialty or bulk molecules, which will be added every year. I think when the hydrogenation facility comes up next year would be a little bit different, because we'll be probably adding around 14 or 15 different products in one go when that facility comes up.
Correct.
Just one clarification on this part. Wasn't our target around that 2025? Is it only after hydrogenation facility comes up we can achieve that?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So also when we say that we are actually internationally launching 6 or 7 products, we also in our kind of what we call as the small reaction laboratory make certain materials which are for either our internal fragrance division or for our international specific clients. So if you add all of them, it reaches that number of between 12 to 50. But when I'm saying 5 or 6, these are the products which we globally launch, part of our product list and offering it to the customer.
So sir, after hydrogenation facility comes up, can we scale this number to 10 plus international products each year?
So I think it's more than the number, Aman. I think it's also, like Dharmil rightly said, that when you're talking of a specialty aroma ingredient, there is this olfactive aspect of the product quality, which is very qualitative in nature. And it is important to really get that right for getting global acceptability of the material. So, I think more than the numbers, we would probably focus on what we have launched, how well is it accepted globally, and once it gets accepted globally, if we can change the price point, which makes it more relevant and useful for a perfumer to use it more. So, rather than looking at the number of new products, we would probably try to stabilize our product launches and try to increase the global volumes of those products.
Sure, Parag sir. My second question is on our top 10 products. So just to understand the competitive landscape, so sir, if say for our top 10 customers, how many suppliers will be supplying the same kind of product which we are?
So the product selection that we do in the available market of the molecule at most times doesn't have more than the inventor plus one. So we would be either the inventor plus one or the inventor plus two more. So we are not playing in a very crowded market. And the fragrance and flavor business uses over 6,000 different materials. So there's enough room for us to choose, our battles.
And to take this further, in terms of wallet share, is it correct in some of the molecules we'll be the dominant supplier to our customers?
So we don't work with that philosophy. What we look at trying to get at least 33% of the world market share of the available market in the molecule that we launch. And
in the top 10, we will be, a majority of them will be at 33% market share?
For sure.
Sure, Dharmil. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipen Sheth from Christensen. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I got disconnected the last time. It was just a maintenance question on a request for a better tax disclosure because you're giving just a single tax number. We don't know what the deferred tax or current tax charges are in your declared PL. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Girish will communicate with Valorum and you can be in touch with them for that.
Right. And you can note here, actually, we are in 25% tax rate. We have adopted the new tax rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will
and on the working capital bit, just one more thing. I can see an item called other current assets, which has jumped up from 27 to 40 crores during the year. Can you just share some color on what this item is?
Actually, it has gone mainly because of the GST on the increased raw material side. So 13 crore increase from the GST and 5 crore is the advances to the suppliers for CapEx and others.
I see. Perfectly fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Anuj Sonpal for closing comments.
Sorry, it's Dharmil. Dharmil, you want to give the closing comments?
Yeah. So thank you all very much for participating in this earnings call. I hope we've been able to answer your questions satisfactorily. If you have any further questions or would like to know more about the company, please reach out to our investor relations managers at Valorum Advisors. Please stay safe and get vaccinated as soon as you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of Oriental Aromatics Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.
Thank you so much.